10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you on the Exceptional Conservative Network. That's right. This is the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. I'm happy to be here with you. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday. It is beautiful weather here today in upstate New York. We're actually enjoying the weather for once. It is not raining at this moment. It is not snowing at this moment. And if you look at it a week ago, you might have not been sure that we were in spring. It's just crazy weather out here. But I'm having a good day, and it's really fun to be here with you all. I'm happy to enjoy this time. I hope we're all going to have a great time and a great show. There's a lot of stuff to cover today, and I hope we can get it all in the next 2 hours. Remember, you can be part of the process as well. You can tweet to us over at MV Consult on Twitter. You can reach us on you can reach us on Facebook at the Voss Political Commentary page, and you can leave us messages there. You can, of course, go to our chat room and leave us messages in the chat room, and of course, you can call into the show at 607-242-9247. We look forward to hearing from you in any medium. Saturdays are about talking with you and having a conversation with you about all the things that are going on. I'm just picking a couple of topics that I think we should talk about, but of course, you make the difference. I see Tina DeBella is already in the chat room, and I am happy to see her there. Always happy to see Tina and anyone in watching the program. And give me a second as I just say, hi, Tina. All right, wanted to just say hello to her while we had a chance. So I want to go over a lot of different things in the show today, a lot of different things that have happened just in the last couple of days. It's been a crazy week. I mean, it's been incredible. And for the kids, please don't smoke. It's bad for you. It's a horrible habit, but it is my habit. So let's start off with, first of all, I want to say to everyone, if you're in the Binghamton area, please drop by the Belmar Pub, the Park Diner. They are friends of mine. This is not a paid advertisement, but I do like to always mention them in every show because I enjoy their establishments. I love the food there. It's a great place. Please do check them out if you get into the Binghamton area. So let me start off with what just happened in just the last couple of days. We had a great time. A lot of people may not be familiar, but yesterday was the 10th annual Homeless Awareness Sleepout, and that was at the SUNY Broome campus in Binghamton and Broome County, New York. And it was a great event. And I was there. Some people may remember last year today, I was over at the SUNY Broome, the 9th annual Homeless Awareness event. And I was invited back this year to be the speaker at the event and to talk about my experiences with being homeless, which some people may be familiar with. I've mentioned it before publicly. In Broome County alone, there are about 2,000 people who are homeless at any given moment. There's about 300 kids that at any given moment right now in Broome County, they're homeless. I myself, 30 years ago, have been homeless and sleeping on the streets in California, on the steps of a church on Orange in the Hollywood Boulevard region of LA. And so I understand exactly what it feels like. I do understand the terror that comes from trying to sleep in the middle of the open public with people walking around and not knowing if that next sound is someone coming to attack you while you're homeless, sleeping on a street, on church steps. I know what it feels like to know that you have no idea how you're going to get fed the next day, how you're going to be able to get a meal, or to wash up, to stay warm in cold weather. I do understand it. And it wasn't, intense. It was a very tense time in my life. It wasn't years long, but it was long enough that I do understand and appreciate that. And of course, that's why I'm always very proactive and want to be involved with the SUNY Broome awareness and just letting people know that we can do more to help those who are homeless. And rather than talk more about it, I want to just play. Fox 40 was the only news station that actually covered the event. And I want you to share with you what that article and what Fox 40 did in their coverage on this. There, it's playing. Come on.
Firestone tires now come backed by a 90-day industry-leading guarantee, because you can't love them until you kick them.
Oh, I hate commercials.
Firestone 90-day buy and try guarantee. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Sorry about the commercial there.
Now the weather is in the favor of students taking part in a homeless awareness sleepout at SUNY Broome. Fox 40's Brian Race takes a look.
Right now we're having our 10th annual homeless awareness sleepout. It's designed to certainly bring attention to the issue of homelessness here in Broome County. The maximum totals we have right now are about 2,000 people in this area.
This is important. I mean, this is a personal thing. I've been through this. I understand exactly how it feels to be sleeping out and not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And I know that there's literally almost 2,000 people, 300 kids in Broome County right now that are going through that same experience that I went through.
So this event is in order to inform the student body here that they're aware of the problem and that they can come up with solutions in order to fix it.
Solutions that include donating to shelters and fundraising.
I think we made $3,000 that first year. Homeless people are probably the one group who have few advocates compared to almost any other group in our society. So that's the reason why we've tried to sustain this.
Advocacy awareness, but what else can you do to help?
And certainly we're also taking in donations to help out people who are homeless, because we really want to help them as best we can to make sure that they have the supplies and the food that they need to get by from day to day. So the more people that really come here, the better.
And anything we can do to try and help them make more awareness, to get more things to help them, anything that gives them a little more safety, a little more food, I want to be involved in that, and I'm always there to try and help it out.
Reporting from Binghamton, I am Brian Race for Fox 40.
All right.
Firestone tires now
Hang
come
on,
back by a
one second.
90-day industry.
Sorry about that, folks. Again, I apologize. Oops. Did I lose everybody? Come on. Looks like we're down on the frames at the moment. Did I kick everyone off? Come on. Come on. There we go. We're back again. All right. I'm not sure at what moment we may have lost everyone in that. Basically, and I think it was the commercial that did it, we were trying to play the Fox 40 news announcement on the homeless event. I hope everyone was able to see that, and I apologize if the commercial dropped everything off. It seemed to kick everything off here. I didn't see it immediately. But basically, just for people to know, it's very important to be aware of the homelessness, that anyone can become homeless. I've known friends of mine just in the last month that have become homeless. And it can happen for any number of reasons. Yes, it can be mental illness, but at the same time, many people who were there, it's not just because you're a war veteran or that you have a mental illness. It could be someone losing their job. It could be from a breakup in a relationship. There's so many factors that could cause someone to become homeless, and it can happen to anyone. It can happen to your neighbor. It can happen to you. Probably most people have known 1 out of 5 people in their lifetime that have been homeless at some point. Even with college students, there's an even higher percentage of college students that don't have somewhere to stay. During the school year, they stay with their friends. Sometimes they don't have anywhere to stay, and they sleep in the campus itself. So this is something that is a widespread issue Many people are being affected by this. And the more that we can raise awareness, the more we can do, the better we can help about that. And I know in the city of Binghamton, just last year in November, there was a $4 million award to build 19 units, 19 apartments to help combat the homelessness. And while that's a big deal, I want to impress on you, it's not enough. First of all, it's overpriced. The government's spending $4 million to build 19 houses. Come on. You can build an entire apartment complex, a hotel, for $1 million and be able to house 50 to 100 people. So that's one of the problems. Government is not the answer. Government is never the answer, because government will fail. It happens every time. Government, they're spending 4 times, 5 times as much as they need to be able to build a facility to house just a handful of people. There's 2,000 people in just my community that need the help. 300 kids. To say 19 units, that's great. It's nice to have 19 apartments. But there's so many more that need help. And we can't rely on the government to do it, because the government spends too much money. They waste too much money. We need to do something. And I'm happy to say that in my conversation with the students at SUNY Broome after my speech, which is on Facebook, and you can see that on the Voss Political Commentary page. But after my speech, I was able to speak with a couple of students. They have some brilliant ideas. Brilliant ideas. I believe it was Monique and Melanie that were speaking with me. And they have some great ideas. Being able to get supplies to those who are in need, donated to them, just so that they have something: warm clothes, warm socks, tissue paper, a toothbrush, little things that make a big difference in the lives of someone who doesn't have that needs some way to just make it through the next day. And so that's a big thing, and I'm really happy about that. And I hope that's going to be something that we can move forward and be able to do more with. In addition, there was another idea of, tiny houses, being able to have the engineering students to build tiny houses, put them together, give people who are homeless just a little space where they can have that safety, that warmth, the ability to make some meals and to eat like a regular person, and just not have to be out in the cold, in the bad weather. I mean, yesterday was great. It was really nice weather. It was warm, it was sunny, there's clear skies. And as I told the students there, I had hoped that it would be raining. I had hoped that it would be like 40 degrees, just to give them that one moment to appreciate what it is like in bad weather when you have no choice, when you have no option, when you're homeless and you have to be out in that horrible weather because that's all you can do. And that's important. And we have to remember it. That could be any of us. It has been me. It can be you. I hope no one ever has to experience that. But there are people who are experiencing it. And the more we can do to help them, the better it can be. And that's something that I believe is very important, something I believe in deeply, and something that I want to do to help. So, and I hope that Melanie and both of their names, I apologize, I forgot their names. But anyone who's working on this, I want to help them, whether it's with the government or independently of the government, because we don't need government to do everything. We can do this, and we can do it better. And so I want to help. And if we have an idea, let's get those ideas out there, help as many people as we can, because we could be helping ourselves one day. So that's something I wanted to share with everyone. I think it's a very important thing and something that I really believe in. And I'm happy to, next year I'll be at the 11th annual Homeless Awareness Sleep Out, and I'll help and I'll speak and I'll be there because I believe in this cause, and it's something that I truly, truly work on every year. And I really want to help that out. But of course, when I'm talking about colleges, when we're talking about what's going on in schools at this time, it brings me to yet a different idea, something that's not quite as fun, something that's not quite as interesting. And that has to be the S.A.Ts. Now, I'm looking at, and for those who are just listening to this by the podcast, the audio only, this is an article from the New York Times. It says, your questions about the new adversity score on the S.A.T. answered. And this was published on May 17th, yesterday. And for people who are not aware, so just to bring everyone up to speed, there's this new idea that's running around the academic circles that because the question of whether or not race can be considered as a factor for admission into schools, since that's being questioned and that's being brought up and it's going before the Supreme Court, the schools are looking for another way. And for their gender identity politics, their agenda that we see on every college campus across the nation, they're looking for another way to promote that. And so their answer is they want to go with an adversity score. So when you take your S.A.T., you get an adversity score. And I am livid. I hate this. I think this is a horrible idea. This is one of the most insulting things that I've seen since they decided to say that Ebonics is actually a language and it should be taught in schools, which is stupid and insulting. I think it's as insulting as the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. I think it's as insulting as, affirmative action. Because it's insulting to the people who are involved with it. It means, by definition, when the government comes out with these programs, when we see institutions come out with these programs that say that you are so pitiful, that you are so deprived, so deficient, so inferior, that they have to come up with a new category, a new way to insert you into their programs, into life, into society, to take care of you because you can't do it yourself. I find that insulting. And that is inherent. That is inherent in each of these programs, whether it's the Equal Rights Amendment, whether it's gay rights, whether it's the affirmative action. All of these programs are built on the premise that the people they're trying to, quote, help, end quote, are inferior, that they can't do it on their own. And I am sorry, that is an insult. That is wrong. And we should never buy into that. I don't believe in that. I don't believe it's correct at all. Just because you may be poor, you may be black, Hispanic, Asian, any group, I don't care what it is, gay, straight, transgender, whatever it is, that doesn't make you inferior. That doesn't make you in need of the government's help, the full force and might of the government pushing and mandating that you have to be accepted because otherwise you couldn't be, because you're too inferior to be accepted. That is inherent when you accept things like affirmative action, Equal Rights Amendment, when you accept these ideas, the S.A.T, the adversity scores, you are inherently accepting the fact that they are saying that you are incapable of being able to live your life, that you are inferior. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I reject it. It's part and parcel of the gender and identity politics that we see coming from the far left and the fringe left. I reject that. How dare you say that? I know that that's not what they say in their advertising, in their commercials, in their proponents out there. They don't say this, but that is the meaning of these things. Stop for a second and think about what these things say. You can't do it, so the government must do it for you because you are too inferior to do it. And I'm sorry, I reject that. I reject that wholeheartedly. So I'm very upset about this S.A.T. Adversity score that's now being instituted to try and make things more fair. And in the article, the New York Times goes on to say, some of the neighborhood factors that are going to be used for this adversity score are median family income, percentage of households in poverty, percentage of single-parent households, percentage of vacant housing units, percentage of adults without a high school degree, percentage of adults without a college degree, percentage of adults with agricultural jobs, and the unemployment and crime rates. Okay, I want you to think about this. And by the way, they also have a detailed data link which shows the college board who put this together. And these are some of the people who were involved in putting together Common Core, one of the bigger failures in education across the nation. And they have the full list of all the things that are measured from the neighborhood and your high school. Now, this has nothing to do with the individual student themselves. It has nothing to do with the student who took the S.A.T. and whether or not they have been adversely affected. This isn't an individual thing. This is a mandate from institutions telling you that just because you exist, and just because you exist in a certain place, you are inferior. I reject that completely. This is insulting. This has nothing to do with education whatsoever. Okay? And I know people want to say, well, Mike, you just don't understand. Yeah, I understand very clearly. Let me ask you something. Let's think about this for a second. What in the world does the unemployment rate in your area have to do with you being able to do 2 + 2 = 4? What in the world does the crime rate in an area have to do with you being able to read? I mean, quite simply, nothing. There is no correlation. There is no connection there. Oh, well, you're in an area that has high crime. I grew up in an area with high crime, and did that mean I couldn't read? Of course I could. Because reading a book has nothing to do with whether or not a crackhead is running around out in the street. Unless you're deciding to run around out in the street with the crackhead. And I expect that if you're running around in the street with the crackhead, you're not reading a book. But that's a choice. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be with the crackhead. And if you're running around with a bunch of crackheads, 9 out of 10, you're going to be a crackhead too. Let's be honest about that. So what's that got to do with anything? Unemployment? People are unemployed for lots of reasons. It has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence. We've seen people, remember in 2008, where we had massive, rampant, 10, 12% unemployment throughout the nation? Some of the highest levels of unemployment since the Great Depression. And people are trying to say that somehow if you are unemployed or live in a household where people are unemployed, somehow that means you're less intelligent. Really? What does that have to do with anything? How does whether you are employed or not have anything to do with whether or not you're intelligent? That is an insult. Everyone should be insulted by that because it has nothing to do with anything. Let me ask you, when you're looking at whether or not you're in a single-parent household, what does that have to do with you being able to understand science? Quite honestly, what does it have to do with it? I grew up in a single-parent household. My mother did a wonderful job of raising us. Guess what? I was a huge, avid fan of science. I read all the time. I went to college and I studied chemistry. Much of my scientific knowledge came from my love of science early on in my life. And I grew up in a single-parent household. I have many friends who grew up in single-parent households, also are knowledgeable about science. I know people who are now adults. They're knowledgeable about science, and they happen to be single parents. What does that have to do with someone's knowledge and the ability to convey that knowledge? It has nothing to do with it. It is an excuse. It is an excuse to try and promote a gender and identity politics. It is a way to say that someone is inferior and that they need the help of a government or an institution because they cannot do it for themselves. And if you accept that, you are always beholden to that institution, to that political group, to that government for everything in your life. You give up your freedom, your individual choice, because you say, I can't do it myself. I'm not good enough. And if you say that you are not good enough, you give them the power of your life, and you are then and forever afterwards only limited to what they are willing to let you do. That's worse than slavery, in my view, because it's willful. You willfully give up your right to this other institution, this political group, these fringe ideas, and say that you are incapable of doing anything other than what they have decided you are able to do. You are no longer an agent of your own life. You are dependent on their direction for your life. That is insulting. And I reject that wholeheartedly, completely. I will never accept that. And I don't think anyone should ever accept that. Let me say that again. The S.A.T. and this adversity score, this attempt to define people by categories and ideas that have nothing to do with an individual, that have nothing to do with the ability of an individual to convey whether or not they have knowledge, is insulting and it is demeaning. And everyone should be upset about this. This does not do anyone any favors. You are not helping someone. To say that to say that there are vacant houses. I live in a city where 40% of the houses, roughly, are empty. That's because the population left. Okay, this region, Binghamton in particular, Broome County, used to be a hub of manufacturing back in the 80s. And manufacturing escaped New York because of the high taxes, bad regulation, bad government. And manufacturing left. And so the area went from about 80,000 people to 40,000. And if you don't count the illegal aliens in the region, it's actually somewhere around 38,000 people. But remember, the houses that were here for 80,000 people are still here. The houses didn't go away. So you have a huge number of abandoned, empty, and some of them blighted houses. Does that mean that the kids in this region somehow are better or worse than children in any other region? Students here are worse or better off than students anywhere else just because there is a higher percentage of houses that are vacant because industry changed, because government failed, because government policies drove people out? New York State has lost about 1.5 million people, most of them from upstate New York. And you have to ask yourself, when people are leaving these areas, if your neighbor, let's really think about what the S.A.T. is saying here. If your neighbor moves and there's no one in that house, if the apartment next door to you or the house next door to you is empty, how does that make you smarter, more capable, or more knowledgeable? Does it add or subtract in any way? Because the honest answer is no, it does not. Whether or not you have a neighbor next door does not make you smarter or dumber, more knowledgeable or less knowledgeable. We have to think about this. This is insulting. If you think I'm wrong, tell me. Tell me how that's not correct. Please explain to me how whether or not there is someone next door to you, in a house next door to you, a neighbor, makes you smarter or not smart. How whether or not someone is unemployed in your region, not even in your household, in your region, in the area you live in, if someone is unemployed, please explain to me how that affects the ability for you as an individual to add, subtract, and to write a sentence. Please do explain that to me. I really would love to hear this, because the only answer I get out of this is insulting, it is demeaning, and it is wrong. And it does not help anyone, but it does promote a gender and identity politics fringe mentality that is built on the idea that you are not smart enough to run your own life, and some elitist is. And we should reject that completely. We should all reject that completely. But as you heard the little bell go off, it's time for a quick break. So just bear with me and we'll be right back in just a moment.
and she don't mean a thing. She just had eyes of fire in a heart so cold. One touch, lost. Sometimes a man is wrong. Oh, she took 5 sips. Oh, she was gone. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, it's one of those times. Thank you.
All right, folks, and thank you for joining us back here at the ever so popular No Soundbites Allowed podcast. I am your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and we are on the Exceptional Conservative Network. I thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I enjoy spending my Saturdays with you, and I look forward to hearing your comments about everything we're talking about. So as a quick recap, what we've talked about so far in the show, we spoke a little bit about the SUNY Broome Homeless Awareness Event. This is the 10th annual Sleep Out, where people become more aware about what it is like to be homeless and to try and find ways to help people who find themselves homeless through not necessarily any fault of their own, whether it be because of a breakup with a relationship, whether it's because of losing a job or mental illness, veterans, any of those reasons, and so many more. Ways that we can help, in particular in our region, the 2,000 people, the 300 kids that find themselves homeless on any given night. And that's an important issue, and we're working hard on that. And so we advise you to check that out. And we also were talking a little bit about the S.A.Ts. And my particular disgust, let me say that again, my particular disgust at the demeaning and insulting nature of these adversity scores that somehow decide that because of someone's neighborhood, because of factors that have nothing to do with the individual, that they are somehow inept, that they are somehow inferior because of some criteria of the number of houses that may, or apartments that may or may not be empty in their region, because someone may or may not be unemployed in their region, whether or not there may be some crime in their region. Somehow that decides whether or not you can read, whether you can write, whether you can do math. I reject that. I think it's the most insulting thing that I've really ever heard. And we completely reject that here on the show at the No Soundbites Allowed. And I think most people would reject that if you think about it. And yet that's what colleges are going for right now. It's insulting. But we want to hear your thoughts on this. You can call in at 607-242-9247. You can tweet us at MVConsult. You can leave a message on Facebook at the Voss Political Commentary. Please reach out to us. Now, the one thing you won't be able to do, sadly, at this moment, is to be able to reach us by email, because our email is down. And, like anything else, everything costs money, and it's difficult. And right now, our email is down, but we do have a GoFundMe so that you can help. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the subjects, the events that we cover, the politicians we speak with and interview, please help us out. We have it. It's on the GoFundMe, our media equipment repair and upgrade. That's like our email, keeping the lights on, making sure that I can get to and from events, everything. And your donation would be very helpful. Also, if you happen to be in the Binghamton region, please drop by and visit my friends at the Belmar Pub and the Park Diner. This is not a paid advertisement. They're just friends of mine. I love their establishments. Please do drop by, say hello to them, and enjoy yourself there. I think you'll have a great time. So that's where the show is right now. But let's go forward, because there's so much more to talk about. And there's plenty of time, but there's always so much more. Actually, we don't have as much time as for all the issues that I wish I could speak about today. But we're talking about things that really are insulting and upsetting. And one of the things that I think is really, well, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. It's Machiavellian. It's something that you would expect to see from Littlefinger, I think. And maybe you agree, maybe you don't, but let's talk about it. And that is Senator Cory Booker. Senator Cory Booker on the 16th, May 16th, came out, and he has been advising Democrats to make donations to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She's the senator for New York State, and she's running for president, the nomination for the Democratic Party, just like Cory Booker is. And I have to tell you, I think this is... Now, some people think they're the BFFs, that they're best friends forever. I don't. I mean, that's what the pictures are. That's what they try and get the image out there. But I think this is a Littlefinger movement. I think this is pure Machiavellian politics at its highest. I think it's very entertaining, because Senator Gillibrand, who currently is at 0.7% on national polling, 0.7%. You can go to Real Clear Politics and check that out for yourself and see their latest stats. But as of this show, at this moment, she's at 0.7%, not even 1%. And she doesn't have enough donations or enough interest in the nation for her attempt to become the Democratic nominee. The fact that she's all about gender politics is not enough to be able to promote her and get her more attention across the nation. So she's very likely not going to be on the national stage debating with the other 20, 30 Democratic nominees. And he's going to give her money. And I see your comments, Tina. Give me 1 second. I'm going to answer that. I just want to mention the reason why it's Machiavellian, why it's like Littlefinger, because Cory Booker is using her. By getting her donations, by getting her supporters and raising up her numbers enough that she can show up on the stage to have a debate, well, then she owes him politically. And from this point forward in her career, the only thing that she can do is help Cory Booker. If she gets out the race, she has to give him all of her support, all of the money that's been donated to her. It goes to Cory Booker because she owes him. If she stays in the race, she gets the nomination, Cory Booker gets to be the vice president because she owes him. She could never move forward without his help. He has dominated her. He has put her in a catch-22 no-win situation. Littlefinger would be proud. Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. But Tina DeBella mentions, unrelated, and Tina is part of an organization called the Americans for the Restoration of the Constitution. and she's mentioning that they have an annual picnic, which will be on June 17th, that about a month from now, and that'll be from 6 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. at the Arnold Park in Vestal. And this is their 10th anniversary, their 10th year anniversary. The event is going to be catered by a local business called Phil's Chicken House. It's open to the public. They do ask for RSVPs, and you can reach out to Kathy at 607-97. I can't read today. It's 607 area code 797-9499. Please RSVP by June 9th so that they can have a head count for all the food and all the people that will be there. And of course, I plan to be there, Tina, so thank you for that. So it's nice to get some public announcements out there. But what I was saying is, wrong thing. What I was saying is, in looking at this campaign with Cory Booker, he is not her friend. Think about it. Cory Booker wants to be the Democratic nominee. That is his goal. That's what he's running for president. He wants to get the Democratic nomination. And he does not stand out for any reason. The biggest thing he has going for him is that he is black. He's a black man, and in the gender identity politics that controls the Democratic Party at this time, whether you like it or not, that is what is running the Democratic Party politics at this time. Fringe left socialist ideology. And in that ideology, Cory Booker is only important because he is a black man. He happens to be straight, so that doesn't help him. He happens to be richer than most people, so that doesn't help him. He's not particularly young. That doesn't help him. So the only thing he's got going for him is that he happens to be a black man. And Kirsten Gillibrand, well, she's all about gender identity. Only thing she has going for her is that she is a woman, talking about women, girl power. That's it. And other than that, she's rich, she's white, she's privileged. She has nothing else going for her. Does not allow her to compete with people like Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, who pretends to be an Indian, or Beto O'Rourke, Robert O'Rourke, who pretends to be a Hispanic. So she's not doing well against this. Or the gay man in the race, Pete Buttigieg. Although I do think Kirsten Gillibrand will do better than Bill de Blasio, and I'll be talking about him in a moment. But realistically, she has nothing. So the only way that Cory Booker is able to help himself with that segment that he needs, that category, again, not individuals, because that doesn't matter. Just like with the S.A.Ts, it doesn't matter who you are. In their worldview, it's only about your category. So women that he needs, Cory Booker, to advance his desire to become president, well, how can he get them? Because he has Kirsten Gillibrand in his pocket. Because he's getting her votes, and he is getting, or polls, he's raising her numbers in the poll. He's going to get her donations and get her onto a stage so that she can debate and make her case for why gender politics is the most important thing in the 2020 race. That's it. And that's how he gets to win. That is pure Machiavellian politics. That is purely Littlefinger in action. When people say Game of Thrones, what relevance does it have? Here it is. This is the real world that it's pulling off of. Now Tina mentioned in the chat room, Tina mentions that it's BS. She's talking about Kirsten Gillibrand. She whines because she has no support because of her being a woman. Yes. And what a crock. Sounds like Hillary Clinton excuses. Cory Booker does not have a chance of being the nominee. Well, I agree. Tina. I don't think either of them have a chance of winning. I do believe that the Democratic Party is looking for a all-woman vice president, the full ticket of all women against the evil, horrible, misogynist President Trump. That's their idea. But they have all these different groups and categories that they have broken the party into. The Democratic Party is completely splintered. It isn't about any individual. It's not about an idea other than socialism. But quite honestly, it's really about you're in this box. Everyone in the Democratic Party is considered in a box, and you're only as important as the box that you fill. And the more boxes you fill, the more important you are. That's why Pete Buttigieg is so much more important than Andrew Yang, because Pete Buttigieg fills a better box. He's a gay man. Andrew Yang, while he's Asian, which would be important because that's a minority, he's rich. And he has nothing else to say. So he's not nearly as important as is Pete Buttigieg, because being gay is more important than being Asian on the Democratic Party checklist of categories. And that's how they rank you. And it's absolutely no different than the way that the adversity score at the S.A.T. is ranking people. You're only as important as that group that you fill. And if you don't fill enough boxes, you're unimportant. If you happen to be rich or older or white or a combination of all those things, if you happen to be just black and a straight man, you're not as important. If you're a straight black woman, you're not important. If you're an Asian, you're not important, because that's just one box. You have to have more boxes. You have to fill more groups. You have to be a socialist. You have to be gay. You have to be transgender. You have to be some kind of victimhood, or a combination of multiple victimhoods, so that you can advance and therefore you can move forward. And that's why we see Kamala Harris doing so well. Because I don't see Bernie Sanders, I don't see Joe Biden, making it to the end of the race, because they're old, rich, white men. Straight men at that too. They're not going to make it at the end of the day. That's not what the Socialist Party, that's not what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is promoting. That's not what Representative Tlaib is promoting. Omar Tlaib. Oh, no, it's Omar Elan, who's also a representative. That's not what she's promoting. That's not what Tlaib is promoting. That's not what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is promoting. It's not even what Bernie Sanders is promoting. They're promoting the gender identity politics that says that you're only important if you have enough categories. And again, that's why you see Cory Booker putting the rich white woman in his pocket as the black man. He has more priority than she does, which may be also why he has better polling numbers at 2%, 2.4%, than she does at 0.7%, because he fills better boxes. And so he's going to put her and her money and her supporters in his pocket, and she owes him forever. And how is she going to pay that off? You have to wonder. Now, Tina also goes on to say that I hope they go that route for all women, because not one of the women they have out there is truly a viable winner. Well, I personally agree as well. I don't believe that just going on the idea of gender politics is a winning strategy. I don't see how that can help anyone. I think it's a failing strategy. Dividing the nation, dividing people, valuing people based on the category they are or where they live it's not American. It's not helpful. But this is what the Democratic Party believes. And I have a comment that just came to me off of Facebook. John mentions, honestly, this is a terrible idea, and it's a short-term solution to the problem that is the S.A.T. and standardized testing system. So that was one of the comments that came to me off of Facebook as I'm looking through. So again, one of the issues we're talking about. And notice how these are all connected. To get into college, it helps to be in more categories, more boxes filled. You have to be more of a victim. The bigger the victim you are, the more that these institutions, this government, these political ideologies are going to help you, quote unquote. They're going to help you by telling you, this is all you can do. Here's the limit. We're going to let you get to this point, and you're going to owe us for life. Exactly what Cory Booker is doing to Kirsten Gillibrand. You're going to owe for life. You can only succeed as much as I will allow you or they will allow you to do so because you owe them and you are too inferior to them to do anything about it. That is insulting, folks. That's the Democratic Party. That is the Democratic ideology at the moment. That is democratic socialism. That is in our colleges. That is in our schools. That is in our politics. And that is insulting, and we need to stop that. That is my personal opinion. You are more than welcome to text, to comment, to chat, or to call in and tell me I'm wrong. I'm willing to hear that. Let's have that discussion because I guarantee you we're not having it anywhere else in the nation, and we need to. We really, really need to. So we're going to do that now. There's a lot of other things that I want to get to on the show right now. But I did want to mention that, and I truly believe, and I do have a poll out there, I believe in the photo, as you see it online here, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, they're not best friends forever. This is Littlefinger. This is Machiavelli. This is Brutus stabbing her in the back. That's what I believe. You can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'm looking forward to that. But what else we wanted to talk about here, and we're going to be taking a break shortly, but I got to get into shame. This is Game of Thrones shame time. Fran Lebowitz. Fran Lebowitz it's insulting. It's aggravating. And I want to talk a little bit about her when we come back from the break, starting our new hour. Fran Lebowitz was on Bill Maher's show yesterday, and his Friday program for Bill Maher's, what's that program? I forget what it's called. Bill Maher's, well, it doesn't matter. Bill Maher has the HBO show, and he talks, it's like politically incorrect. It's a far left HBO program. She was the guest that came on, and she decided to suggest killing the president. She wasn't mistaken. She wasn't confused. She didn't not know what she was saying. She made it very clear, a very clear and very direct threat against the president, and she's proud of it. And she only started to back away from it once they started getting backlash on social media. And then she said, well, I misspoke or you misunderstand. It's always, you ever notice? It's always that we misunderstand what they say. So whenever we see these politicians get in trouble, we misunderstood. No. You're not smart enough. Remember, you didn't have a good enough S.A.T. score. You live in an area that has unemployment. You're not smart enough you had a single parent, or you are a single parent. You're not smart enough to understand what they're saying to you. So you misunderstood when they make a very direct statement, and that's your fault, not theirs. It's not Fran Lebowitz's fault that you didn't understand this. And when we get back from the break, I'm going to take a break. When we get back at the top of the hour, I'm going to go over this with you. And I'm going to let you hear her words in context, so you will hear exactly what she said. And please tell me how anyone else is misunderstanding what she said, or how having an extra cup of coffee makes it better or worse. Because those are the two excuses that she's using now to say, well, no, you just don't get it because you're too stupid. And if you had a better S.A.T. score, if you didn't live in a neighborhood that had unemployment, if you didn't live in a neighborhood where your neighbors lived next door to you instead of an empty apartment, well, then you'd be smarter. This is insulting. But, and Tina mentions the left is so hateful and vile. There was no misunderstanding any of this. I agree, and I agree. There was no misunderstanding what she said. But when we get back in the next, we're going to take a quick break. This will be a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll really get into this and explain exactly what she said, let you hear it, and then we'll go forward from there.